Hello interwebs, it's Scott from Admiralty Entertainment, and today we're taking a toy tour of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or at least the toys that I have that represent characters from there. You will notice that most of them are Marvel Legends. There's a couple which aren't, and we'll get to them as we go through. But I thought it'd be a good time to take a look at them because we haven't actually had anything new in the way of MCU Marvel Legends for a little while now, of course, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic causing a lot of delays in the release of entertainment. Particularly movies, so they've not released merchandise to go with those movies that they can't release, because otherwise what would be the point? So yeah, we haven't had anything new for a while, so I thought that'd be a good time to just do a little tour of what there is here. Certainly this won't be the end of the collection, as more toys are produced, as more entertainment comes out. We know that there's a rumoured Disney Plus line of Marvel Legends supposed to be coming out in the near future. That'll be fantastic. And of course there's plenty of new MCU entertainment that's listed to come out on Disney Plus and in theatres as time goes on, and there's a lot of those characters that I'm going, yeah, I really want to have action figures of those guys in the MCU style. So let's take a look at what we've got here, and of course we have to start with Stan the Man Lee. We've done a review of him. We've done a couple of reviews of different Stans actually, but as I said in that particular review of this particular figure, I think every MCU shelf should have a Stan on it somewhere, and I have them here front and center. The Stan cameos was a big part of the MCU. It's going to be really weird moving into the next phase of the MCU without having those little Stan cameos. But yeah, I feel that you have to have him here as a tribute to his role as one of the creators of Marvel Comics. Not the only one, to be sure, but certainly he worked his guts out along with everybody else, and deserves that little tribute of having a little plastic cameo on the shelves here. So let's head over to this side, and you can see my sort of World of Wakanda area. Of course, Black Panther, played by the late great Chadwick Boseman. That was such a loss in 2020 to lose Chadwick to cancer. And to then learn that he'd done everything that most of us had ever seen him in while he was fighting cancer. An incredible man. I fully support the idea of retiring T'Challa as a character within the MCU. I don't think they should recast him, just to leave that as a tribute to Chadwick and his work. The Black Panther mantle can pass to somebody else. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But I think it would be nice to just say, no, this cinematic version of the MCU, T'Challa's story is done. How exactly they address that, I don't know, but I have every confidence they'll do it tastefully and in a way which is, a fitting tribute. But yeah, I definitely say, don't recast T'Challa. Have somebody else become Black Panther. But yeah, I'm glad that we did get a couple of great action figures of him. This one in particular is on my shelf here. I think he looks really nice, especially when you've got all these wonderful Wakandan women around him. Of course, we do have Shuri, and wonderful other members of the Wakandan security forces there. The Dora Milaje. That was a really cool army builder to be able to have the 3 different heads on there to give me a reason to be able to get 3 different ones of them. I always like army building, but I don't army build unless there's a different way to display them. So the idea of having 3 separate heads here, fantastic. I can justify going, oh well, got to have a separate one to show off each head, and it's something that you really want to have around when you've got a bit of an army. And it's quite different from stormtroopers, when you can just go, oh well, it's different people underneath the helmet. But for these instances where they're not helmeted, you can clearly see that they, if you had the same head on them, it's the same person. So I loved that they did that as an army builder sort of thing. She's fallen a little bit forward. I don't think it's quite protocol for her to be hugging her shoulder like that, but that's fine. We'll sort that out later. So yeah, I'm very interested to see where they take Black Panther 2. And the World of Wakanda Disney Plus series, I think, has a lot of potential to it. I actually thought of the Black Panther movie that the world they set up in Wakanda was probably the most interesting part of it. It was almost like, Star Wars, where they set up that universe. Just the world of Wakanda was so fascinating, and I wanted to see more of that culture and everything there. That was just absolutely fascinating to me. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the Disney Plus series. Goodness knows what they're going to do with Black Panther 2, which is apparently still going to be made and come out. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I'm very keen to see more of these characters, especially Shuri. Loved her to pieces. Having her, potentially fill the sort of Tony Stark hole in the MCU, I'm happy with that. Certainly be fascinating to see when they do get Reed Richards in, how he'd interact with her. It depends on how they do Reed, of course. But yeah, I love these characters. Fantastic that they're in the MCU and that they've been embraced globally as they have. In the back there, we can see the Guardians of the Galaxy. So you do have Peter Quill, Star-Lord, from Volume 2. I personally like the long coat version slightly better of his costume, but I think that's probably the better action figure in terms of the Volume 2 short coat one, and I do like him with the mask on. It looks more superhero-y to me. And of course the Mantis Build-A-Figure. That was an interesting decision to split her up over the course of the entire wave, but glad that we have her at least. Nebula, I love Karen Gillan. Karen was first seen by me in Doctor Who, and I think she did a fantastic job. I'm so glad that she's apparently still going to be around for a bit in the MCU as Nebula. I really would love to see more happening with her, because I think Karen is a fantastic actor, and we've seen that in a number of projects now. I honestly think that they missed a trick with this female Pirates of the Caribbean of not having Karen in there as Red from the ride rather. I think she'd be a fantastic choice for that, and we've seen that she can do action in the Jumanji movies. She can clearly do comedy. She could carry that movie on her own, and so I'd really like to see more of that. We do of course have Drax, big Dave Batista. I'm not a fan of that particular head sculpt on him. I like the more stoic one. This is of course the Volume 2 Drax as well. So I kind of like the Volume 1 head sculpt a little bit better, but of course that skin tone didn't really work with the Volume 2 body, which I think works nicer. It's a better representation of the character, and it helps differentiate him a little bit from Hulk with his skin tone there not being quite the same that you do get in the comics where he's green, Hulk's green. They look like, oh, you related? That sort of thing. And of course you can see Yondu there with the large mohawk, which I think just looks better. I mean, it's more comic accurate. But yeah, I do like that one, and the pursed lips for the whistling and all that sort of thing. Fantastic figure, I like that one a lot. And you will notice that this is sort of showing that I do have in display characters who are dead. For the most part, you'll see that we only have one version of each character. There's not, all the Iron Man armors. It's not multiple Spider-Man or anything like that. But I do have in some characters who have passed on a little bit. And you can also see that there with original Groot, who, let's remember, is not actually the same Groot that we've seen in all the other movies. That is the first Groot, and Groot 2 that we saw as Baby Groot and surly teenager Groot is technically a different Groot. Clipping and that sort of thing. It's grown up, but not technically the same character. But I think he looks really great there as the original build figure from the first wave. I think this one might actually be from the 3-pack that they did. It was originally a Toys R Us exclusive where they had this version, of the Volume 1 Groot, plus the little sapling Groot, and Baby Groot from Volume 2. I think this one just has nicer paint deco. It looks cool though. And, for the height sort of thing, you can see here that a lot of these guys are all just, action figure size. So having full-size Groot, you do actually see him there. Even though technically probably for accuracy of the MCU to date be surly teenage Groot. But yeah, I just put regular size Groot in there for the time being at least. It's my display, deal with it. And you can also see at the back there, Talos, who, was a surprise that it turned out that he wasn't a bad guy. You think that, he's a Skrull, he's going to be a bad guy, but turns out not to be, and I really enjoyed him. His character, portrayed by Ben Mendelsohn, it was a lot of fun, and I'm very interested to see what they do with him from here, with the announcement of the Secret Invasion Disney Plus series with Samuel L. Jackson, and I'm fairly certain that Ben's been announced for the cast on that one. it was certainly fun to see him pop up quite unexpectedly in Spider-Man Far From Home. But yeah, I really like that take on the character, rather than just, oh, the Skrulls are bad, as they have been in the comics for a long, long time. So I think it'd be really interesting to see where he goes there, and it was fun to be able to sort of pop him in there, a little bit in the cosmic area. But yeah, glad to see him there. You can, of course, see Doctor Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. This is, of course, the Infinity War 3-pack. You can tell because of the fact that he has the Time Stone effect on his arm there, as well as the Mystic effect in his other hand, but of course the Time Stone effect is not removable, unfortunately. Love Benedict. I'm a complete Sherlock mark. I make no bones about that, and I do actually have him on a doll stand so he can fly a little bit, again to help with those sort of levels of the display, and also it's a character which you really feel benefits from having that sort of thing. It will be interesting to see where they take his character. We know that he's going to have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Whether we address the Eye of Agamotto no longer having the Time Stone, does it have its own power separately? Who knows? But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that continue, as well as him continuing as the sort of mystic advisor to everybody in the MCU, which is frankly where the character has been in the comics for a long, long time. All those years that he didn't have a solo series, it was very much, oh, well, we've got a magic thing, we better go see Doctor Strange. And you can kind of see that thing possibly continuing to happen here in the MCU, but, I enjoyed the first Doctor Strange film, I really did. I think he worked really well in Infinity War, bouncing off all those other characters. Missed opportunity to not have him and Robert Downey Jr. have somebody address him as, hey, no, Sherlock, and have the two of them look around at something like that, but, what can you do? But yeah, really nice figure. That head sculpt that they did, which was different, or at least the paint apps I'm fairly certain is actually a different head sculpt from the solo movie release line. There we go. Definite improvement. I think it looks fantastic. So yeah, the figure itself, I think the only complaint is the fact that you can't remove the Time Stone effects there. But otherwise, fantastic figure. So glad to get that with a better head in that 3-pack. Moving over to the side a little bit, you can just see Sif poking out there, her and Valkyrie at the back. I do like the Asgardians. Sif hasn't been seen in a while. Apparently she's going to be in Love and Thunder, so that'd be interesting. And of course Valkyrie was fantastic in Ragnarok. The outfits, it's a difficult choice between this one and the more formal Valkyrie outfit that you see her in at the end of Ragnarok, and also in Endgame. I actually kind of like the more casual look of her outfit from the beginning of Ragnarok. So yeah, it's a difficult decision on that one particularly as to which version to go with, but yeah, I went with that one. I do like her. And of course, we do have, speaking of Thor characters, Korg, played by director Taika Waititi. This makes another action figure of somebody that I've actually worked with, because Taika did direct me in a commercial that I did some years ago. He did not call me back for doing anything in Ragnarok, and I hadn't heard yet about Love and Thunder, so probably not on his shortlist, but that's okay. It's nice to know that I'm that little bit closer when you play 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. I'm very close to a lot of people now, which is very cool. But yeah, Taika, if you're watching, give me a call. I'm more than happy to do anything. So yeah, it's great that we do have a figure of him. I mean, he was a breakout character there, stole his show so many times, and it's been great that we've seen him in Endgame as well. So he's not just one and done movie feature and all that sort of thing. Plus, of course, the fact that we know that he survived Thanos and the Black Order's attack on the Asgardians, and of course, the word is that he will be back for Love and Thunder as well. Fantastic. A lot of Korg heads out there. The only thing is he doesn't have a meek. We really need him to have a meek to be able to carry around. I wouldn't mind seeing, a couple more of the gladiators that they had in Ragnarok in plastic form, because they look fantastic. But certainly very glad that we do have Korg. In front of him, we do, of course, have War Machine. Now, this is kind of an interesting choice where I have gone with a non-accurate figure here. So this one was based off the concept art, as I understand it. It's not the more Iron Patriot armor that he actually wore at the end of Avengers Endgame. I think this was a case of Hasbro was working with the concept art that they had, but by the time that they'd produced it, the movie makers had changed things a little bit, gone with something else. And I do have that Iron Patriot figure, but I really like having the War Machine colours there in the display rather than Iron Patriot, so I've chosen to go with that one. Given that there will be the Armor Wars Disney Plus series, hopefully that means we get more War Machine figures, because I'm a total armor mark in the first place. So yeah, I do like this one. It's very much the Iron Man as a tank sort of approach to it, and so War Machine is very cool, and I like having that one there. And of course, in front of him we do have Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel herself. I did go with the helmet on rather than just the head, because I think this one it just looks a little bit more interesting. I am very surprised they still haven't done an Endgame Captain Marvel, because it seems like it's pretty much the same outfit, just coloured differently. And I actually really like the Endgame colours. So it seems like an obvious one which they still haven't done yet. So hopefully we'll get that before too much longer. If they do come out with that, then yeah, there's probably a decent chance that I'll put that one in place of this one. But I do like that outfit. The general update of Carol Danvers to Captain Marvel in the comics, I think, has been one of the best costume redesigns in many years. In that it looks good. The movie itself, it's not that I wasn't a fan of it, but I didn't think it was as slickly done as most Marvel ones are. There's potential there, but I don't think they quite realised it with that particular film. But yeah, we'll see where that one goes. Clearly, there's going to be a sequel. It made a lot of money, good. And I like the character in the comics. I just don't think we quite got as interesting a version in the movies as what we could have. So let's see what they do with it in the future. And of course, you have MJ, which is not Mary Jane Watson, but Michelle Jones, I believe it is, played by Zendaya. A very interesting choice that they went with to make an MJ who isn't Mary Jane Watson. It gives you flexibility to basically do what you want with the character for the MCU, which is good for them. Also a little bit scary in that she could be killed off at any stage. But yeah, I really like her, and I think she's fantastic in the Spider-Man movies, so I really hope that she sticks around. And she has great chemistry with Tom Holland, who we can see here as Spider-Man in his Far From Home outfit. Again, this is one where it's sort of, I was very torn as to which Spider-Man to put in there. The Far From Home outfit is not actually my favourite. I actually really like just the original Homecoming one, or Captain America Civil War. The homemade outfit looks really cool too. The Iron Spider one is cool, but I don't think I'd really put it in this display. So given that I like a lot of them, I decided to go with the sort of chronologically accurate one in terms of this is what he is in theory wearing in the MCU at the moment. But yeah, we'll see what outfits he gets for Spider-Man 3, which sounds like a very fascinating film with all the rumours of who's in it and who's not in it. Multiverse villains and possibly other Spider-Men could be quite fascinating. But yeah, I do like Tom Holland's Peter Parker, probably best of all the cinematic versions that we've had so far. Tobey Maguire is fantastic. Andrew Garfield was probably a better Spider-Man than a Peter Parker. But yeah, I think Tom really sort of captures all aspects of that character really well, and I'm very happy to have him in there. And the fact that he seems to love the character so much, and in that spat that there was between Sony and Disney, he went to bat for that particular character being part of the MCU. It's good for his career. It's good for the fans to have Spidey in the MCU. I think it really helps things. So yeah, I'm glad that he put in that effort himself, and I hope that he has a very good career. Certainly seems to be doing very well so far, and I want many more Spider-Man out of him. Of course, behind him we have Rescue. I'm, as I've said, a big fan of armoured characters. and seeing Pepper Potts in the rescue armor was quite the surprise in Endgame, but I love it. I think it's fantastic. I especially like the fact that they did go with a different color scheme for her rather than what there was in the comics, which was basically just red again like Iron Man. The fact that they went for that sort of bluey purpley color scheme, I think is great in that it gives her her own distinctive color. So you have the red and gold for Iron Man, the black and silver for War Machine, and now you get a sort of bluey purple and gold for Rescue. I was tempted to pop the head off and put the head from the Iron Man 3-pack in there, so you could have an unmasked Pepper Potts, but no, decided to just stick with that. But yeah, another one which I honestly didn't think we were going to get a figure of, and we did, and it's like, yay! I'm very childish with these things. But anyway, we do of course have Thor. I don't know what it is, but they seem to be having some problem getting a decent face sculpt of Chris Hemsworth. I mean, this is a lovely face sculpt, but I don't see much Chris Hemsworth in there. It's a shame. It's the Avengers Endgame figure, of course, and you can see there with Stormbreaker. My thing is that it's an axe, but I keep seeing it as the battle hammer sort of thing that Ultimate Thor had, so I keep having him around the wrong way. So in theory, this should be turned around the other way with the blade side forward. But yeah, I keep thinking of the Ultimate Thor, which was still a hammer. So that explains that a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I actually kind of like, again, the Ragnarok Thor, the arena, in terms of best overall look. I really like this Endgame outfit. I'm not a fan of... I'm not Endgame, this is Infinity War, isn't it? Yeah, Infinity War. Or beginning of Endgame. I'm covered either way. But thankfully, it's not the Fat Thor. I know a lot of people want Fat Thor. I do have the casual Fat Thor as the Build-A-Figure. But yeah, I'm quite happy with just keeping this one. But I'm fascinated to see what he's going to be like in Love and Thunder as well. There's always possibilities for new Thor figures and Thor looks, so we'll see where they go with that. And yeah, I am a fan of comedy Thor. I think the Thor that they had in the first Thor film, the Kenneth Branagh directed one, I think that film is very underrated. I think it's very, very good, and it's a solid, fish out of water sort of story with, some of those wonderful Shakespearean overtones to it. Fantastic cast. Dark World, of course, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it gets a bad rap, but it's still a solid enough sort of thing. It's just not as exciting. I honestly do think that Thor 1 was very, very good though. Thor 3 really turned it on its head, turned everything on its head, turned it into an action comedy, which I really like. And so people who don't like that, tough. And the box office, kind of supports me on that one. So yeah, I'm interested to see where they take him, and I think that Chris Hemsworth is actually very, very smart in terms of he hasn't said, no, I'm out of the MCU. He's still making movies, he's still doing plenty of things separate from the MCU, but this gives him sort of like a safe harbour that, if those other things don't go so well, can always come back and do another MCU movie. Be it a guest role in Guardians 3, which is apparently going to be the case, or his own movies, or next version of Avengers, whatever. I think that's a really smart thing to do, and it's kind of the thing that you wish that Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. would have done. The dramatic storyline for Iron Man, I understand, kind of prevents that, but keeping the door open to be able to have that as something you can come back and do every so often, I think is a very smart move. Speaking of which, Loki. Definitely one of my favourite characters. Fantastic job on the acting there. Tom Hiddleston is amazing, and this particular head, that's a fantastic head. I'm not a huge fan of this version of the costume, which is a repaint of the Ragnarok one for the beginning of Infinity War. I actually really like the Avengers lot. The Avengers costume looks great, and I do have a figure of it, but I just like this head so much better. And this particular one, having those more Loki colours as opposed to what the single release was, I think works, as a decent compromise. It's going to be fascinating to see where he goes in his solo Disney Plus series, and then we'll see if we get any further action figures out of that. again, it's so surprising that Loki is still around. His death in Infinity War was quite definitive, I thought. I mean, I know he's died pretty much every time we've seen him, but that was a good end to the character. But the way of bringing him back in Endgame, I thought was genius, and the fact that he's now got his own Disney Plus series, I hope that this is something which, again, Tom Hiddleston can keep coming back to. In between other projects, clearly, he's got other things to do. He's very popular as an actor, and very good as an actor, so he deserves all the success he gets. But yeah, I really enjoy Loki. His Loki is fantastic, and I'm glad that we have him in the MCU for a little bit longer at least. Speaking of people who I really enjoy, yes, it is J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. That end credits scene in Spider-Man Far From Home, where we got J. Jonah Jameson back, and it was indeed J.K. Simmons again, as he was in the Sam Raimi movies, was a total fanboy moment for me. I absolutely adored it. He is J. Jonah Jameson as far as I'm concerned. And though we don't have an MCU figure of him at the moment, I did take my old Spider-Man movie line and just chuck him in there, because why not? I can. He's Jonah Jameson. We can say that this is JJJ from a few years ago in the MCU. But yeah, it's great to have him back in the Marvel fold. After that brief stint as Commissioner Gordon in Justice League, which I didn't care for the movie very much, but the casting, fantastic. JK always does a fantastic job in terms of the acting anyway. But yeah, so glad to have him back as JJ. In the front here, we do of course have Iron Man in his Endgame armor, the Mark 50 something, I think it is. No, it might be even further than that. I can't remember. But it's the Endgame one, which I think is a fantastic armor. I like that armor a lot. And so, yeah, again, it's a case of I considered popping the helmet off, putting a Tony Stark head on there, but yeah, for the moment, we'll just keep it as the Iron Man helmet on his head there. We do, of course, have Hawkeye back there. That is still the original Avengers release, because Hawkeye has been severely underrepresented in terms of Marvel Legends action figures, certainly for the MCU. But I really think that Sunglasses head still remains the best Jeremy Renner portrait that we've had. So yeah, I really like that one. He's got all the gear on there, which sadly doesn't have that SHIELD logo, which should be there. But yeah, if they do a cool version from his Disney Plus series, I'd certainly look at upgrading him. But yeah, all the other ones that we've had so far, the Ronin look, no, not really interested in. That's my Hawkeye, that'll do. But it'll be interesting to see where he goes in terms of, he's always been sort of a bit critical of Hawkeye's role in the movies so far. So once he gets his own series, it'll be interesting to see what happens to that character, because he's one of the actors that you could really say, I wouldn't be surprised to see him sort of just bow out from there, especially if he's handing on the Hawkeye mantle to the Kate Bishop character. We do of course have Vision, currently screening in WandaVision after his untimely death in Avengers Infinity War. I really like this figure. It's part of a 2-pack with him and Scarlet Witch, which was very difficult to be able to get in the first instance, and I know that they did the phasing version as a solo release later, but yeah, that original one right there I think just looks amazing, and it's one of the first ones which had that facial printing technology applied to an MCU figure. But even just the colours and the sculpting, it's an amazing figure. I really, really like it. And it's so good to see Paul Bettany in the WandaVision series really flexing his muscles in terms of what he can do. The work that he's done as the Jarvis AI and then becoming Vision has been a great progression. But really, I've found him absolutely fantastic in WandaVision. We still haven't finished that series yet, so I don't know what's going to happen to Vision moving forward. I hope that he's still around, I really do, because Paul Bettany is fantastic. If this is his swan song in the MCU, it has definitely been a good one. But yeah, it's a great figure. I really, really like that. And it would be really nice if more people could get a hold of it. The phasing version is fine, but I really like that version there. We do kind of have a little break in my rule here of only one version of a character here, in that we do have Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner from that Age of Ultron Amazon 4-pack, and we also have the Hulk as a separate figure, which I know technically they're the same guy. They're the same guy in both of them, but I have two separate figures because I can, because that's a pretty good figure. This was before the facial printing, so the face could be done a little bit better, but it's a good sculpt. I do like that face sculpt, and you can see a lot of that Mark Ruffalo in there, which is a good job. I mean, the facial printing really makes such a difference, and you can see that in the likenesses of later figures, very, very clearly. But even at that stage, that was a pretty good likeness for that era. And of course we do have Smart Hulk from Avengers Endgame, and yes, this one is not a Marvel Legends, this one is a Marvel Select, partially because, well, actually mainly because I like that outfit for him as Smart Hulk, and Hasbro to date has not done that outfit. They just did Hulk as a basically reuse of their existing Hulk body with a better head on it, which was a fantastic head, and if that head could go on this body, then I'd probably use it, because the Marvel Select head is not so good. It's not a very jolly green giant, he's more of a morose green giant. But it's a good figure, and of all the characters, Hulk you can kind of get away with fudging the scale a little bit, as you often do with Marvel Selects in Marvel Legends displays. For the larger characters you can go, well, yeah, he's just a little bit bigger. So I would still like to see a Marvel Legends version of this outfit. I know that they actually did a couple of this Marvel Select one, because he wears a couple of slightly different outfits, and I'm not entirely certain, but I believe this one is actually in the end of the film, so the big battle. But there is another one which I think he's wearing at a different point in the movie. I think that was a Disney Store exclusive, which is just impossible to be able to try to track down here in New Zealand. So that one will do. But yeah, I would like to see more Hulks in the Legends line. It'll be interesting to see what happens when the She-Hulk series comes out. I'm a big She-Hulk fan. I definitely want to get an MCU She-Hulk figure, but the question will be, what's happened to He-Hulk by that stage? And will we get a figure that reflects that? Who knows? We do, of course, have Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch. Again, that is the 2-pack version, not the original Captain America Civil War release, and you can tell from that amazing facial printing. Fantastic figure, I really do like that. And it is absolutely a necessity to have her, not even just because of what's going on with the WandaVision series, which, as I've said, I think is fantastic, and Elizabeth Olsen is doing such a fantastic job there. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with her character as the MCU moves forward. There's a lot of talk about it, this being the kickoff for a lot more multiverse sort of stuff, so her exact involvement, very interesting to see. And yeah, I do like the outfit that they gave her. I do wish that we had an Age of Ultron Scarlet Witch. The other ones have been basically the same costume, so that's good. This particular figure is the nicer repaint of that particular mold, but it'd still be nice to have that original outfit, and a Age of Ultron Quicksilver, though possibly another Quicksilver might be coming along the way with the new Quicksilver, but we'll see what happens there. And yes, of course, I would be a complete sucker for WandaVision Halloween Scarlet Witch, because it's the comic version and it looks cool. So yeah, next we have Captain America, Chris Evans. This is, of course, the Power and Glory Endgame version, which is, I think, an amazing Captain America figure. They really had done a fantastic job in evolving that design over time, and the Endgame one with its scale, chainmail scales on the chest there, looked fantastic. And this figure, that likeness is fantastic. The unhelmeted version has possibly one of the greatest likenesses in any of the MCU figures, but even with this helmeted one, you can still tell that's Evans under there. I mean, it's a very, very good figure, and I'm glad that we got that. I did change out the shield though. That's not the shield which comes with this figure, because I want to have a nice, bright, shiny shield for the display. But yeah, very cool cap. We do have, of course, Black Widow in here. Let's see if we can focus on her. And that is the Black Widow solo movie one. Technically, if we're going under the timeline sort of rules of the display, where it's sort of like, you know, the last outfit that they had, she should be in her endgame outfit. But no. This figure, I think, looks really great. That costume looks fantastic. I don't like that head, though. I don't know what they did in terms of... Is it the sculpt? Is it the painting? I don't know. It feels like, for most of the Black Widow line, that they might have cheaped out a little bit in terms of you know, the faces, because they don't look as good as other ones do, which is a real shame. But yeah, as I say, I really like that costume. I think that looks fantastic. It's going to be really weird to actually see the Black Widow movie, because we've been waiting on it for so long now. But yeah, when we do eventually see it, it's going to be really interesting to see where that fits into the time frame and timeline of the MCU, and see what happens to the character. You know, a lot of rumours that you know, maybe she's not as dead as we think she is. I think she is, and this is a nice little sort of swan song for her. And possibly the Black Widow title being passed on to somebody else. Who knows? We'll have to see what happens there. We also have, of course, Bucky back there. Now this is an older Bucky. I know that they did bring one out for Avengers Infinity War, and yeah, I don't have that one yet. And seeing as how there's going to be the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV series on Disney Plus, they may well do a better version, which I'll just get from there, because these, I believe, rumoured to be in that Disney Plus wave. So yeah, I mean, still, the likeness is not bad on that one. It's not as good as the printed face ones, but still, very cool. And of course, behind him we do have the Wasp, which I think is a great figure, and it's really a shame that she's become this, you know, sort of universal peg warmer. Not getting the love that figure really deserves. It is very nicely sculpted, you know, and you know, I like the Wasp. It's a very interesting take on the character. You know, it's going to be so interesting to see how she fits in with her mother, who, of course, in the comics, Janet Van Dyne is the Wasp, and Hope Van Dyne doesn't exist. So that was a very interesting choice in terms of creating the cinematic version of that character anyway, but she certainly works as a great foil to Ant-Man, so I think that's great. In the back there, you can just see, excuse me, in the back there you can just see Sam Wilson as the Falcon. Yeah, again, sorry, that lighting is not fantastic on him there. Again, it's a slightly older figure. It's not the Infinity War one. I'm surprised that they haven't done a Winter Soldier you know, version of the figure. I know that they did that for Marvel Select, but we've never had that as Marvel Legends, which seems like an oversight. But yeah, I'm very interested to see, you know, he's rumoured to have a new figure for the Disney Plus series, which I think looks, you know, the costume that we've seen looks really cool. So seeing that translated into figure form would be very, very nice. We do of course have Sam the Man Jackson back there as Nick Fury. It's quite an old figure now, but that likeness is still good. I mean, it's you know, that coat and that figure are not fantastic, but that likeness, yep, that's Sam. Love his Nick Fury, fantastic choice. Really the only choice that you could get after they did the Ultimates. And he's really, you know, made that his character, and the fact that he keeps coming back to it, you know, it's a nice easy paycheck for him really, because he's not in that much of a lot of the movies, but really adds that aspect of the world of the MCU. And S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that sort of thing, so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him in Secret Invasion. We do see Luis back there. Yeah, standing behind there. I mean, I love his recaps. The fact that we didn't have that for Avengers Endgame is a crying shame, but yeah, tonal things probably wouldn't have worked for it. But yeah, he's fantastic. Fantastic character as an action figure. He's one of those ones that you go, we're never going to get that, and yet we did. And that 2-pack has been on quite bad clearance here in New Zealand, down to absurd levels in terms of cheapness. The Ghost figure is really, really good, and it's just a shame that this figure is kind of a little bit boring, certainly for kids. So I understand that much, but he's a good character, and I'm glad that we actually have an action figure of him, especially since we have Ant-Man. Got to have his friend to be able to tell him everything that's going on, and I really like the Zen Man. This is of course from Ant-Man and the Wasp. Was that slightly refined version. I did like the original Ant-Man version, which of course was better represented in that Marvel Studios one. It's more accurate because the first Ant-Man solo release was based on the concept art more than the actual movie design. But yeah, I really like the sleek streamlining that they've done to that original outfit, and yeah, I really enjoy Ant-Man. Paul Rudd is a fantastic choice there. Never the sort of person that you'd expect, but that's the sort of casting that works so well for the MCU in terms of going with guys that you go, really, him? And he's done a fantastic job, and I think he's a really good component and part of the MCU. It's going to be really interesting to see where Ant-Man 3 goes, because again, we're going with that multiverse possibility sort of thing, with Quantumania as the installment title, as I understand it. So yeah, I'd be really interested to see where that goes. We do of course have Agent Peggy Carter here. I was so glad when they produced an action figure of her. It was such a surprise they did actually release it. I'm so happy that we have one. I really kind of wish that we had the Agent Carter from her solo series sort of look, but the fact that we have any Peggy Carter at all is amazing. And again, it's a really nice figure. I like that one a lot. And hopefully we'll get to see more of Agent Carter. I know that they changed the timeline with Cap going back to her, but I still want to see more adventures of Agent Carter. I really do. Hayley Atwell is fantastic. I want to see her doing more stuff, and having her as Peggy Carter would be so much fun. And I'm sure a lot of people have sort of noticed by this stage that he's not an MCU figure. He is, of course, the Rocketeer, and he is the Legacy Collection version from Funko, so he's one of the couple of guys who are not Marvel Legends from Hasbro in here. I just really like the Rocketeer, and it was directed by Joe Johnston, who also directed Captain America First Avenger, and he kind of fits, so I chucked him in, because I can. And it was released by Disney, so kind of. I know it doesn't, but still, he looks really good, and I love the idea that somewhere in World War II there could have been a team-up between the Rocketeer and Captain America. It's just fun. I like it. And of course we have Red Guardian and Elena Belova, who we don't really know very much about because the Black Widow movie hasn't come out yet. The Red Guardian figure, I like the figure, but the lack of the masked or helmeted head, that's a huge miss by Hasbro. I don't know what they were thinking there. I can only assume that they didn't know, and so the toy just simply wasn't considered with that. Again, the likeness, not that great for David Harbour. The figure itself looks nice, but yeah, that head, if only they could pop another head or two in with some other figure that we get along the way to be able to make up for that and bring him up to the standards that we expect for everyone else, that would be really nice. Elena, again, we really don't know what the character is going to be like. Looks nice enough. But yeah, nice figure. Don't know what she's going to be like in the movies. But, hopefully we'll get to see. We do, of course, have the Netflix corner of the MCU. Exactly how much of a corner that will be moving forward, we don't really know. And I know there's been people saying, oh, well, the Netflix stuff isn't really in the MCU. That could be a different universe entirely. Well, I don't tend to believe so. I tend to believe that it's just a small corner of the MCU that doesn't get looked at very much. I do love the Daredevil outfit that they had in there. Charlie Cox is fantastic. That first season everybody raves about. I really like season 2 with the Punisher. I think he did a really great job there. I do think that they missed a chance in just putting some sort of DD on the chest there, just to be able to drive it home that he's Daredevil. But yeah, I really liked Daredevil, and I do hope that they do revive that series for Disney+. I know there's talk of him being in the next Spider-Man movie. I would like to see more of him. I would like to see more Daredevil in the wider MCU. Have him go up against She-Hulk in the courtroom. That'd be fantastic. Yeah, just bring him in as your regular legal consultant when you don't want to use General Walters. Yeah, I like Daredevil, and I think this is a good figure of him. We do of course have Jessica Jones, another Netflix character who I would like to see return to the MCU proper. Continue that series on Disney Plus would be really, really nice. And Luke Cage, who seems to be the less likely of those three to actually get a revival or come through more. But I really liked, the Luke Cage series, and would love to see more of him in the MCU. We do have Iron Fist and Colleen Wing in there. Oh, Iron Fist. I mean, what can I say that everybody else hasn't said already? It was a bad series. I just don't know what they were thinking. The concept is fine. I think clearly the MCU itself is going to be going with Shang-Chi as its martial arts expert sort of person. But yeah, to waste Iron Fist like they did in that series, it was heartbreaking. Colleen, on the other hand, was really good. But if they decided to just go, nope, we're going to make her Iron Fist, fantastic. I'd watch that series in a heartbeat. And of course we do have some more Netflix back there with Claire Temple. They never actually called her Night Nurse, did they? I can't remember. But yeah, the Nick Fury of the MCU Netflix universe. Fantastic job. She's probably going to be a bit busy being Ahsoka Tano now, but still good that we've got an action figure of her. And of course, the Punisher, who I really, really liked the Netflix take on the Punisher in Daredevil Season 2. I think that was a really fascinating way to take the character and introduce him. And I think John Bernthal does a fantastic job there, very underrated. Another one which I really hope that we do get to see him back in the MCU as the Punisher. The Punisher could possibly be classified as a problematic character now. But the character itself and this portrayal, I really like him. I think he's done a fantastic job, and I'd love to see him get a couple more seasons, appearances and other things. Fantastic actor, did a really great job. I want to see more of him. Moving to the back corner there, we do have our couple of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. So we do have Agent Coulson, the originally late lamented Agent Coulson, then revived Agent Coulson. Again, this was done before facial printing, and we've looked at a couple of these guys in that S.H.I.E.L.D. 3-pack where you had Nick Fury, Agent Coulson, and Maria Hill. That the sunglasses head I think is the better head for Coulson. The Maria head, very, very good. I'm very glad that we do have Kobe Smulders in there as a figure. It's very nice to have at least a couple of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. I'm surprised that we don't have just a generic S.H.I.E.L.D. agent at this stage in the MCU outfits. But given that they seem to go with just, we're wearing black suits and ties for a lot of those ones, it's kind of understandable. But once you got to Avengers where they're wearing the jumpsuits more, that kind of made a bit more sense. And of course we do have at the back there Martin Freeman. In there, not technically a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. In the comics, his character is a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, but in the movies, he just seems to be a CIA agent, which is kind of weird. I mean, at the time, S.H.I.E.L.D. was kind of gone, so that made sense. But it's kind of weird seeing, him just be there. And I actually thought that he was the weakest part of Black Panther. Not Martin's acting or anything like that, but just the character didn't seem to have as much purpose as pretty much any of the other characters. He didn't really need to be there for any of the storyline. But it's cool nonetheless. And I am glad that we do have an action figure of him. If nothing else, so that you can stick him next to your Doctor Strange. If you are doing a Sherlock custom, you do need to have a Watson custom to go along with that. But in the meantime, it's nice to have him there in his MCU form. So, there we have it. That is the current state of my MCU shelf. As I say, we've had the sort of hiatus from the MCU over the course of the pandemic. Just starting to get back into it now with the release of WandaVision. The pandemic is still raging, of course, so we'll see what happens with the release of Black Widow and how that gets the rest of the schedule back on track or delayed further. Certainly with the movement of the Disney Plus series, we're getting some MCU content, which is great. And the word that we will be getting more MCU figures is fantastic as well. But in the meantime, I'm glad that you were with me on this little toy tour of the plastic version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So thank you very much for watching. Please take a look at some of our other toy tours or reviews. We have done some reviews and showcases of figures in this very selection here. So if you want to take a look at them, or if there's anyone in there that you particularly want to see, drop us a line, put it in the comments, let us know, and we'll see what we can do. So that is us for now. We're out of here, but we'll be back again soon. So please be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll Marvel Cinematic Universe you later on Admiralty Entertainment.